And welcome into another edition of Game Day Gambles over here on the KC Sports Authority podcast. You can find us over here on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the show. So if you are new to the show or you haven't subscribed just yet, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button below and come back each week for our sports betting content, fantasy football content. We're going to get into some of that this weekend, in addition to all of our other content we do for Chiefs, Royals, KU Sports, NFL, NBA talk, all that right here on the KC Sports Authority podcast. He's Greg. I'm Keegan Russell, and it is week 12 of the college football season. We are coming down to the final stretch of the year. Still a lot of big games left to decide, not only college football playoff spots, but conference championship spots. So we're going to get into this weekend slate. Greg, it's been a couple weeks since we've had an episode. Just kind of catch me up. What's anything you learned from a betting angle the last couple of weeks watching college football? There's some major blowouts for sure.
There's some major blowouts. I think we saw who we can trust, who we can't trust. Last week, unfortunately, we didn't get recorded in time, but I think we were both really, really big on Ole Miss, and unfortunately, we couldn't get that out there in time. But I think we saw the Ole Miss that we thought we were going to see when we were talking about them week one, and now I think we'll get to see them make the playoffs and make a run like we thought they would. Still good odds on them making it all the way to the end, and I think it's worth a shot. I think we even saw what happens if Jackson Dart's not healthy. Backup came in there, one drive, let him right down the field against what's supposed to be a top 10 defense. No problem. Kept him in the game, and then it was pretty much all over from there.
Yeah, Ole Miss is still a team I'm very high on. I have, I think, 3 of my 4+ leg college football playoff parlays still going, with Ole Miss being one of them. Are there any teams you think we can count out of the college football race?
I think LSU's funeral has been started. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, obviously they're going to team we'll be talking about in this episode too, but I think they've proven that Brian Kelly does not deserve to be in the spotlight, because when he does, he falls apart coaching wise. So I'd say I'd count them out. I still think there's a lot of interesting teams. I mean, I even look at the SEC, as of course a lot of our games are every week, are SEC matchups. There's still so many teams right there in the mix in the top 20. I think Alabama is still on the outside looking in, but the big win puts them back into contention. Ole Miss, another one of those teams that was just outside of contention, but still right in there. And of course, you got Tennessee in the top 10. I look over to the Big 12. BYU's an intriguing one. You'd think at some point some of their magic might run out, but they're still up there. You could probably say Iowa State's out, with KU thwarting them this last weekend. They'd have to win the Big 12 championship, which is still possible. But I still think we're probably 1 week away from – I think this weekend might determine how many teams are – on the chopping block. I know we already had the top 20 list come out a couple days ago. By the time this airs, already came out a couple days ago. But there's still a couple teams fighting for playoff spots, and of course, a lot of those will be in our picks tonight. But yeah, any other quick thoughts on that race?
I think if you're looking down the board still, you want to make a play on people to make the playoffs. What you said is pretty accurate. You can now take a stand. Do you like BYU minus 115, or do you think Colorado and Coach Prime gets it done? He's proved me wrong. He's got these guys playing. I thought he'd fall apart. Hats off to that team. And then I was big on Miami. I still think they're good, but God, SMU's attractive at plus 120. That's a good football
I was
team.
just about to say that if I had to pick a plus money team right now, I might be leaning SMU, and I might also look at Colorado. I know we've given them crap throughout the year that they're all flash, but they're starting to put together a good stretch of games. They've got a really strong chance of winning the Big 12. Maybe KU can knock them out of it here in a couple weeks, but I think Colorado's an interesting play there. I still think Army has an outside chance. Someone's got to win the Power 4 spot there. I think Army's an intriguing one at plus 700. K-State still at plus 700, which obviously they could get there winning the Big 12. So there's still a lot of places to make money. But yeah, you're starting to get down to the final set of teams there. So let's get into this week, college football week 12 best bets. We're going to kick things off with a program that's no longer top 25, but man, are they a fun team to watch. They have been a solid team all year. If you've been betting this team, James Madison, hopefully you've been winning some money, but James Madison on the road at Old Dominion.
Love JMU here. They're given 3. This is a huge, huge game for them in the conference. They are both 3-2 in conference play. James Madison has stubbed their toe a couple times this year. But I think they end the season strong. Maybe they'll sneak into the conference championship game and get a chance here. I like James Madison to cover the 3 and win at Old Dominion.
Yeah, and I think their team too, we've seen, are capable of blowing teams out if they need to. So that could jump up quick. I want to go to next. I want to go to Clemson at Pitt. Clemson top 20 team. Pittsburgh, who's been back and forth in the top 25, just on the outside now. Clemson's a pretty heavy favorite in this matchup, 11.5 to 12 points, depending on where you're getting at, which to me seems like a lot for a Clemson team that really hasn't set themselves apart from the other college football teams in the top 25. And I think Pitt's also a team that's been back and forth. So I could see this game being a lot closer. But as I started to get into it, I think I trust Clemson and their offense and Cade Klubnik. So this is one I like Clemson, even at 11.5-point favorite, to cover there and win by 12 plus.
Yeah, this line screams to me fishy, and I think you got to lay the points with Clemson. I think when you look at their records, they're both 7-2, and Pitt's at home. But when you look at the schedule they've played, Clemson's played a harder schedule.
Yep.
Clemson also has the 9th best offense in the country, and their defense is much better than Pitt's as well. So in this one, yeah, I think I'd feel comfortable laying the points or putting them in a money line parlay for those of you who like to bet that way.
Yes, I like that one there. All right, next up, let's jump to Texas, Arkansas. Another big spread. Texas has opened at a 16.5-point favorite early in the week. Right now it's sitting around between 12.5, 13, wherever you're getting it. Over under about 57.5. Texas blows teams out. We've seen it all year. They average, their point margin of victory is about 27 points a game, and they average a 17-point victory margin on the road. Arkansas can score, but Arkansas hasn't really slowed many people down. They haven't been that great of a team this year. Now, they are fighting for bowl eligibility, so that could play a factor, especially at home. But to me, this looks like another example of if too many books have Texas averaging a 16-point win. If you're getting it at minus 12.5, I'm taking the over, and Texas is winning by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, for me on this one, I'm going to pass on the spread. But again, for you moneyline parlay players, I don't think there's a chance Texas loses.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We do have a moneyline parlay towards the end of this episode to give you that. All right, next up, another SEC matchup. We'll just kind of roll through some of the SEC here. Number 23, Mizzou on the road at number 21, South Carolina. Two teams that I think are intriguing because at times throughout the year, Mizzou has looked like a top 10 team. And then when they go on the road, they look like a terrible team. And they are on the road against a tough SEC opponent who plays very well at home. South Carolina's had some impressive wins. Mizzou, obviously question marks at quarterback there with Brady Cook. If he's going to play or not, it's looking as of now that he's probably doubtful. So maybe this is when you wait a little bit. But SC, they're a 12.5 to 14-point favorite at home. Still seems like a lot of points for a team that really hasn't, been that explosive of an offense all year to warrant a 14-point victory.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. Normally, I'd say this line screams fishy too, where, hey, how is Mizzou getting so many points? But I think I'm going to take a chance here with the 14 because this team's scrappy. And, I mean, look at the Oklahoma game last week. No Brady Cook. Didn't affect them. So you want to give me 2 touchdowns with Missouri? They have a decent defense. Let's see what happens. I'm going to take the 14, see what happens.
See, and this is the one I'm going to split with you on because Mizzou has scored 10 points on the road in the SEC in their first 2 road games. Get blown out for one, 10 in the other. How are they going to put up points in a tougher environment, tougher defense? So I'm going to take the 14. Like a lot of my plays this week are heavy favorites, and I think they all still cover. So this is what I'm going to split with you. Let's go to another one. Number 22, LSU on the road at Florida. Again, we could sit here all day and talk about the frustrations of LSU football as two guys that are, I mean, you're a little bit more of an LSU fan than I am. I think they're a fun program. But man, what is up with Brian Kelly in these games? Gets destroyed last week, looks awful, which has you feeling like -4. Feels like the public's going, maybe LSU, there's not a lot of confidence in it. We should go Florida. I'm looking at this going, Florida's still not a great football team this year. Their season, I guess you could say they don't really have much to play for, so why not go out there and get a win? But this kind of feels like a bounce back for LSU.
Yeah, this is typical Brian Kelly. He'll lose the game at home that matters, the one that could have given him a chance to make the playoffs. So now the pressure comes off because the season's over, because LSU is, their champions are bust. I mean, that's what an LSU program is. So there's no pressure now. They'll beat Florida by 2 scores. That's what he does. They'll finish the season with only 3 losses. They'll go to a who cares bowl and they'll win that too.
And they'll be on the outside looking at the college football playoff, as they probably will for the next couple of years, as long as Brian Kelly is the coach, because he just cannot get it done when it matters most. That's for sure. All right, moving along, another big SEC matchup, of course. Number 7, Tennessee on the road at number 12, Georgia. Georgia, as the lesser ranked team here, is a 9.5-point favorite on average right now at home. Tennessee is coming off of 4 straight home games where they blew out their opponents essentially for 4 straight weeks. Big, impressive wins, though, during that 4-week stretch. Georgia, though, I think their offense is starting to build some consistency the last 3 or 4 weeks, so they're putting up points. They have been a slow start, so I could easily see this being a 14-3 start to the game, even a 17-10, 17-7 Tennessee lead. But I think as I'm looking at this, I'm starting to lean more of Georgia's going to cover by double digits.
Yeah, this is another one where if you're a Moneyline player, I don't think there's a world Georgia loses in. They'll be focused after the lost Ole Miss. Between the hedges, Tennessee, I don't trust them. Sorry. I think
Tennessee's quarterback has an injury, so there's a chance he doesn't play. So that would obviously lean more in Georgia's favor, which is why I think that line's as high as it is right now. But Georgia's got all the studs on defense. Their offense is starting to click. Carson Beck is still in the Heisman race technically, so he could have a Heisman performance this weekend. It just feels like Tennessee coming off of 4 straight home wins. How are they supposed to go get it done on the road?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Georgia will be focused. They're a good team. They're going to make the playoffs. They're pissed off at what happened. I mean, I believe the odds makers still have Georgia. Yeah, I mean, Georgia's still minus 500 to make the playoffs with 2 losses. Just think about that. They've played a really tough schedule. They're going to win out. They'll make the playoffs.
Moving out of the SEC, we got 3 more games here. Over to the Big 12 and 2 newer Big 12 opponents. We got Houston on the road at Arizona. Arizona's season has obviously not gone according to plan. They find themselves on some books just a 1-point favorite at home against what some people would say is the worst team in the Big 12, who has looked better as of late. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona was a top 25 team preseason. They have lost 5 in a row. They're at home. They're giving 1. I think this is a good spot to bet them. If they're going to win another game this year, get back on track to try to get the 500, they have to win this game.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's, to me, this is what I'm probably just going to stay away from because I want to see some anarchy in the Big 12. Houston was projected to finish last in the Big 12, and they still have a chance to go bowling. So they get a victory this weekend. They are 1 win away from going bowling, which I think would be incredible for them and Willie Fritz. You know, they might be about a half a year ahead of schedule or a whole year ahead of schedule. I think he's a tremendous coach. Just needs to get some talent down there. But man, they know how to play football. They are keeping things interesting throughout the year. So I think that's a fun one to watch. Next one up for us here is Utah on the road at Colorado. Some people, Utah athletic director, saying that they got screwed by the referee. I think there's some questions there. He said it was one of the worst called games he's ever seen. And he said at one point, I think he said, this is the reason we fired your crew from our games last year, to that referee crew. They do have a controversial call to end the game. I think they should have won that game. BYU did not look good at all during that game, and I think skated by. So I think they're going to play a little pissed. But Colorado on the other side too, 7-2. We've given them crap all season. They look pretty good. I know Shedeur still runs for his life, but nobody can slow down Travis Hunter. Shadeur's still going to throw up a big time game. Deion's, I think, finding ways to make up for some of their struggles. So even 11-point favorite, I think they can do that despite how Utah's going to be angry, especially being in Colorado.
Here you go again. Throw this one right in your money line. There's no chance Colorado loses. Yeah. Utah's no offense. I know Colorado's defense struggles, but Utah's no offense. Like, this plays right into Colorado's hands.
Yeah, this could easily be a 33-13 type game. And then last game on the schedule, of course, for local fans here, KU on the road at number 6 BYU, coming off of a big time home victory in Kansas City. The Jayhawks, beat Iowa State 45-36 last week. Impressive win. They were a 3.5-point dog for that game. KU at one point last week during the broadcast, they had put in there that KU had the highest point differential plus pot. They were plus 43 heading into that game as a 2-win team. And KU puts up a ton of points. Now, I think KU is looking much better as a full rounded team. The defense is finally getting healthy. The last 2 weeks, we've seen a full healthy defense. The offense is getting better. Jalen Daniels, to me, has been playing like a Heisman candidate the last couple of weeks. So the offense is figuring things out. Devin Neal sets the all-time rushing record last week. 2.5-point road dog seems great. I think it's an overcorrection to last week's game at Iowa State. But man, BYU, they are a tough team. They play hard. They play gritty. They're a good defense. They're very well coached. BYU at night on a Saturday night, insane environment. I love Kansas, and I'm for sure going to have a play on plus money line and to cover the spread. But I think if you want the non-biased perspective here, I feel like this is an overreaction to last week for both teams, and BYU can cover 2.5 easily. I might tease this game, honestly.
All right. So if you've listened to us, you know that normally I'll look for lines and go, this doesn't make sense. They're daring you to bet a team, so go the other way. But I believe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I told you I'm over this shitty team and I am not losing money on them anymore. So for the purpose of the podcast, and I want all of our listeners to make money, my system would tell you to bet KU. I don't see a prayer that this awful team goes to Provo at night and beats BYU. I will be on BYU. I know it's a sucker line, but I can't do it to myself and take this KU team again and watch them lose me money. So I will go to the window. I will bet BYU. I'll probably be tearing my ticket up in the third quarter going, I can't believe KU got me again. But I can't bet KU. I just can't do it to myself again, Keegan. I'm betting BYU at home.
This one's an interesting one to me because I think KU has a chance to really end BYU's season, essentially, is knock him. I mean, they could obviously still win the Big 12, but they could knock BYU out of college football playoff contention. So as I look at this, I mean, again, my KU fandom tells me this is a game they can do it because they did look really good last week. As I'm looking for chances to make money, I think you could tease this line a little bit more. Instead of KU plus 2.5, I think you can tease this. As I'm looking at it, you can still get a decent payout from plus 2.5 all the way down to plus 6.5. So I think that's where I'm looking at as a teaser, and then maybe parlay that in with something else. And if you're really nervous about KU actually getting it done, you could take BYU plus 3.5 for just under 200 odds. Throw a large chunk of that if you want to throw more than one unit at it. So I think you could make some money there, even if you're not looking at just the straight money line or the total spread. So I think that's an interesting one there. All right, let's go to our last college football thing here. We've got a 4-team money line parlay. This is going to get you 100 plus odds at the time of this recording and hopefully going into tomorrow. 4 teams that we feel have no chance of losing this week: Texas, Georgia, Colorado, and SMU. 3 of these teams we already talked about. SMU we did not, but SMU a double-digit favorite. Mentioned them as a potential college football team as for one of the Power 4 conferences that need to still get in. Seems like an easy play, plus money.
I agree. Yep, we put this one together. We both looked at each other and said, oh my God, we have the same team.
We did. I said, hey, let's pick. And then I guess we did add SMU to get it to plus money. So if you take SMU out, you're getting like what, minus 116 or something like that. Yeah. So still pretty good odds there for a decent payout if you're playing a little bit more on units at that. Okay, let's switch over gears for just a second, talk about college basketball. First off, thoughts on opening week. We had a couple big matchups. KU, of course, got it done against UNC as well as Michigan State, but a lot of fun college basketball games to kick off the first week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a takeaway. KU for the first 20 minutes, I think, looked like, oh God, they're scary. The second half kind of changed my mind, and I said against Michigan State, there were periods again where KU looked beatable. If they clean it up, though, I mean, they got a couple guys on that team that are just borderline unguardable. So,
yeah, I
mean, KU is going to be a force to be reckoned with. You'll hear this now as you get to listen to us and know our teams. My team for basketball is Kentucky. So I was very pleased watching them play Duke. I mean, I thought we were going to be competitive. I hate Duke more than life itself.
I think just about everybody that's not a Duke fan feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Sox guy too, so I hate the Yankees and Duke more than anything in the world. And I'm telling you, watching Kentucky beat Duke just felt like old times. I said, and as we get into Final Four here, won't it be ironic, everyone, if this is the year Kentucky makes a run to the Final Four, the finals, that now that
would be.
Calipari's gone, because we are no longer an extension of the G League. We are actually now recruiting people who might stay more than 10 minutes. So we might actually have some unity on our team.
And you have some depth.
And we
Yeah,
have some
I thought that game was fun. Of course, I hate Duke, but I had Duke in a Moneyline parlay to win a huge payout. And of course, Cooper Flag forgot how to dribble on back-to-back possessions and how to box out and rebound. So welcome to college basketball, Cooper Flag. Otherwise, he had a tremendous game. So don't get me wrong. He played tremendous. Kentucky, on the other hand, I was looking down. I was like, oh, what's up with Jackson Robinson and Colby Bray? They seem to be no-shows. Colby Bray's leading the team in scoring, but was practically a no-show. I think it's just a rotation thing. You can't take a lot away from the early games in college basketball. Most of these teams' rotations are going to look so different down the stretch. I think one thing you can say is, despite that Kentucky no longer has John Calipari, I think Arkansas is going to be a really good team. I think he's motivated to coach a different style this year than what he's done in the past. I think Alabama is going to be a tremendously good team. They're going to be such a high-paced, fast-paced offense. St. John's, with what Rick Pitino's doing up there, is going to be intriguing to watch. So I think college basketball, we're in store for a fun season. We're not going to have a ton of college basketball plays each week. It's going to kind of be dependent on these big games. But we do want to look a little bit here at college basketball Final Four odds. And I'm going to see if I can switch screens here in a second to switch over to FanDuel to give you guys the rundown. But Greg, who would be your favorite if you could pick one team as your, obviously I think you're going to be biased, but who would be your national championship pick?
Oh, national. Let me
do it. Can UConn three-peat?
All right, this is for our listener Kenny. Look, some say you can, but they won't, and they're not going to three-peat, and UConn will not be in the Final Four. You can write that down. UConn's not going to the Final Four. Look, the luck's going to run out eventually. Eventually, this team's going to have to play a close game, and they're not prepared for it, and they're going to lose. I see UConn going out in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 this year.
Yeah, I don't have a take on them just yet because it's so early. I think they're, again, well-coached team, but they did lose quite a bit of talent. So let's get into Final Four predictions here. Of course, UConn, there's a bunch of teams here all tied with the same odds. You got about 7 teams that are plus 220. So really, if you have the capital to throw at this, man, you could just put together 10 different single bets, and one of them's going to hit for sure to come out later. But UConn, Alabama, Gonzaga, Auburn, Kansas, Houston, Duke, all the primary favorites at plus 220. Then you roll into Iowa State, plus 340, Arizona, Kentucky. I do think there's a lot of value here once you get to the plus 500 and higher. Personally, I think I like Arizona plus 500. I say this every year with college basketball. You got to have a good guard play in March. And I think Caleb Love is a very solid guard. So Arizona for me is up there. I think Kentucky, even though, yes, different coaching staff, I think Mark Pope's a very good coach. I think he coached pretty well in March Madness last year with his squad. I like them. I really like Creighton at plus 950. And then I also really love St. John's at plus 950.
Well, what do you think of just a little on Kansas, 220 there?
For sure. Of course, I got to throw a lot on Kansas. To me, as a KU fan, I see the potential and the excitement with this roster. I have also seen after the first 2 big games, I could see how we lose games this year. Now, of course, it's very early, so I'm not taking a ton away. But KU has depth, but if the depth doesn't show up, it becomes a relatively easy team to defend.
And what's your take on Gonzaga?
I've always hated them. I think Mark Few's a good coach, but I think they skate by every year playing a crappy schedule. They always play 1 or 2 good games every year. But let's be honest, if they're not going to join the Big 12 or the Pac-12, the Big 10 or a team or a conference like that, or they just load their schedule with better opponents, I'm never going to take them seriously. Do they play well in tournament time? Yes. I don't know enough about this team this year. I know they've got good guard play, as they always do. I think, to me, Gonzaga is one of the more overrated programs each year, again, because of that schedule. Until they want to play a serious schedule year in and year out, I'm not going to take them seriously.
Few of my friends who are listening are smiling right now because that's all they say. Yeah, look, I mean, they're going to be a staple in the Sweet 16 because they're going to get a high seed. They're probably going to win 2 games against mid-majors and get to the Sweet 16. I'll tell you right now, Arkansas, congratulations on your hire. As a Kentucky fan, I'll tell you, enjoy the round of 32 every year. You probably won't go much farther because that's what he ran Kentucky into. I like 8.5 to 1 to make the Final Four for Kentucky. Love it. Mark Pope is I couldn't be happier. We have a former player coaching our team. He was part of the greatest college basketball team ever assembled, the 1996 Kentucky Wildcats. Won a national championship there, knows the program, knows the environment. He will get that team to win. I like Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats to be in the Final Four, 8.5 to 1.
I think that's a good one. That's a good one. You mentioned Tennessee to me off air plus 1,000. Again, I see a lot of teams on here. I think Arkansas plus 1,300 again. Coach Cal, I think, is going to have a different mindset this year. He's got a lot of new pieces at Arkansas, so they're going to have to figure out how to get the chemistry for sure, but they're talented enough. I scroll down a bit too. I think you always have to throw a flyer on Tom Izzo in tournament time for Michigan State. They're going to play a bad year. They're going to get a 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed, and they're going to upset a few teams and find themselves with the possibility of getting to the Final Four. Texas A&M, I think, is another interesting one there too. Even Texas, but yeah, I think there's a lot of value in college basketball this year from that perspective. So I think it's worth throwing a couple flyers on some of the bigger teams there and kind of diversify your bets there.
Yeah, for favorites, look, if you're looking at a favorite, I like Kansas, probably followed by Houston, and then maybe a little something on Gonzaga because I think they'll have an easy path like they always do. Yeah. And then
that's why I can't take them seriously. They always get the easy way out.
You're right. As a mid odds, like I said already, I love Kentucky. I think 8.5 to 1 is a gift. I think they're going to be actually really, really good this year. And like maybe a flyer for me outside the box. It's 13 to 1. It's not terrible to make the Final Four. Is Rutgers. I think Rutgers is going to be a good team. It's hard to win in that gym. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah. So there's a lot of bets there. We'll keep doing some bets throughout the season. Of course, I'll always almost have a KU play almost every game, depending on what books have what player props out there. And then we'll try and tackle some of the big games. I think we're going to try and do a Maui Invitational episode because that's just a fun weekend of college basketball in general. So we're going to try, and there's a lot of good teams in that tournament. So we'll try and do some stuff for that. But that's basically it for this one. But Greg, there's one final thing you wanted to throw out there, a bonus play.
We got a bonus play.
I don't know anything about this play, by the way, guys. This is
tomorrow night, and it's going to depend on what state you live in. Now I'm 43 years old, born in 1981. One of the first Christmas presents I can remember, Keegan, was getting Nintendo. And one of the first games I had was Punch-Out. Tomorrow night, if you can bet it in your state, Iron Mike plus 200 to knock out that loser. Lock it up. If
I love it.
With an uppercut, that guy's not going to get up for a week. Take the plus 200. Enjoy yourself. Watch it on Netflix. Iron Mike's going to get one more win for us. Lock it up.
I can't stand Jake Paul. I can't stand Logan Paul, any of the Pauls. I would love to see Mike Tyson end it in a knockout for sure. Even at his age, I saw a video picture or something. I think it was today. He was with Dennis Rodman. Ron Artest or Meta World Peace and somebody else. And it was like, even at their age, these are 4 dudes you don't want to make mad. And I would not want to take a punch from Mike Tyson, even in his 50s now. But yeah, I love it. That's a great bonus play there. I did not see that one coming for sure. That'll be a fun fight to watch. But that'll wrap it up on this one. Again, if you guys ever have any questions on any game day gambles, any sports bets you want to get opinions on, basketball takes, football takes, send them our way. We'll try and have, again, weekly episodes throughout the rest of the season. But we also have NFL stuff coming up too, so make sure you are coming back for all of our NFL plays. After this episode, you'll then see Week 11 NFL best bets, and the NFL has been very good to me this year. I know Greg's had a couple big weeks as well, so we're hoping to give you guys another solid week on that episode, so make sure you go check that out. But that'll wrap it up for this one. We appreciate you guys always checking us out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. Give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at KCSA Pod, and make sure you come back for the next episodes.